Well, hey, you guys. Here I am back once again for Tomes of Terror. This is my book review series. So, a couple weeks back, a Canadian author named Adam Cosco, I believe he's based in Toronto, he actually sent me an email and offered to send me an honest-to-goodness print version right here of his latest novel, which is called The Dream Killer. I believe this was actually published on March 25th of 2025, which actually is just 2 days ago as I'm recording this. And, you know, as much as I like the convenience of the ebook thing and how cheap they are and stuff, I will admit that I am a sucker for print books, as my very, very overstuffed bookshelves will attest. So I was like super jacked to get a print version of this because I love having print versions of stuff. So I had actually never read anything by this author before. This, I believe, is his seventh novel. And just gonna say, hot damn, if all of them are as dynamite as this one, then I'm gonna have a fuck ton of reading that I'm gonna have to do, because I kind of want to read all the rest of his stuff now. Now, the thing about The Dream Killer, though, is that it definitely goes in directions that you don't necessarily expect, or that I wasn't expecting, I guess. And for that reason, I'm going to try and be really careful what I say in this video to avoid any kind of major spoilers, because really when I went into this, I knew pretty much nothing about the story other than just the most rudimentary kind of setup. And I really liked that experience because it meant that I was just kind of taken along on this really twisting ride that kept surprising me and kept tying my brain into knots and stuff like that. And because this book is so new, I don't want to take that experience away from anybody else. But that said, obviously, to make a video, I'm gonna have to talk about the book a bit in order to talk about the book, clearly. So if you would rather know absolutely nothing about the story before diving in, which I actually would recommend, then go read it and come back here afterward. I won't be spoiling anything past about the first third of the book or so, but this is going to be your one and only blanket spoiler warning. So the first scene of the novel is it struck me as very cinematic, and it kind of pulls you into the events right away. So there's this sort of seemingly unremarkable everyman type guy whose name is Ethan Webman. And he's woken up, you're led to assume, in the middle of the night by kind of lights and sounds coming from police helicopters, which are hovering around his house. And we find out in pretty short order from a news bulletin on TV or something that the authorities are on day 3 of their search for a missing 11-year-old girl named Mary Kay Redding, who disappeared on her walk home from school. Now, it so happens that the route she takes every day has her passing right behind Ethan's house. There's a creek or a path back there. Now, Mary Kay was actually no normal little girl. She was actually a child prodigy, and she's billed as the youngest member of Mensa. And for that reason, the media have been speculating that she might have been working with the government for some undisclosed purpose. Now, the following day, Ethan returns home after a jog, I think, and he goes to take a shower. And when he comes out of the bathroom, back into his bedroom, he sees this mysterious folded piece of paper, on his nightstand, that wasn't there before. And when he unfolds the paper, he sees this weird symbol on it. It's a black triangle with a white dot in each corner. And the symbol kind of seemingly uncomfortably familiar to him, but he can't quite place it where he's seen it before. And the whole incident, therefore, really unsettles the shit out of him. Now, shortly after this, his mom comes over for dinner. He's, ready. He's very close to his mom. And her husband, Ethan's father, obviously died, I believe, a year previously. And so it's now the anniversary of his death. So she had actually given some of her husband's things to Ethan, to store in his house because she couldn't bear to look at them because of the grief or whatever. But now that it's been a year, she decided, well, I kind of missed the stuff, so I would kind of like some of it back. And the first object that she asks him about is this old carpet that she and her husband had had for years, and, it had been in their house for a long time. Now, Ethan had been keeping it in his basement for her, so he says, okay, no problem, I'll go down to the basement and bring it up for you, and you can take it back home. Well, turns out things like don't end up as cut and dried as that because inside the rolled up carpet is the body of Mary Kay Redding. And not only has she been murdered, but the killer has carved that same triangle symbol that he found on the paper into the flesh of her back. Now, Ethan is completely horrified by this. He is absolutely certain that he did not kill this girl. But on the other hand, if he didn't do it, how the hell did she end up in his basement, right? And he's like, is somebody trying to frame me? Like, what is going on? Now, Ethan's mom, like, he actually tells his mom because, she's like, what the hell's the matter with you? Like, when he comes back up from the basement, like, all freaked out. And because they're so close, he does actually eventually end up telling her about the body. And she immediately goes into, like, damage control mode. Like, she's convinced that Ethan is innocent. He would never do something like this. But obviously, this little girl's dead body in his house is, not a great look. So she tells him that she's going to take care of it. That's a mama bear for you right there. And she kind of spirits the corpse away, like, in her car to dump it somewhere where it hopefully can't be tied back to them. And at this point, we meet the lead detective on the case, whose name is Detective Harris. And he actually interviews Ethan and his mom about Mary Kay's disappearance. It's kind of like a routine at first because she disappeared so near Ethan's house. And Ethan's mom actually covers for her son, like, pretty slick, you know what I mean? It's like, holy crap, mom's been watching a lot of CSI or whatever. But the thing about it is that Detective Harris seems, he's no dummy, and he seems like pretty insightful. And he suspects that Ethan is probably hiding something. Now, meanwhile, Ethan, who is freaked out beyond all belief, as he would be if this happened to you, he starts trying to research this triangle symbol, in the hopes that it will help him try to, like, figure out what's going on, Now, he can't find much about it, but eventually he stumbles on a YouTube channel called Sophia in the Shadows. And the girl that's, like, the host of the show, Sophia, obviously, she had posted a video called The Dream Killer, and he notices that it was taken down due to a copyright strike from something called the Kruger Institute, as in Freddy Krueger. But she still, because it was taken down from YouTube, but she still has it posted on her website, so he follows the link and watches it. So the video details the research of a man named James LaRoche, who was studying dreams. And specifically, he was studying whether you could travel in your dreams and make tangible changes in the real world. Sort of like remote viewing, but actually having something that you did in your dream, like, have an effect in reality. Like I said, kind of like in Nightmare on Elm Street, where Freddy kills you in the dream and you die in real life. It's kind of along similar lines. So because one of the things that his research team did was to leave a triangle symbol on the nightstands of the subjects, like for some purpose that to ground them or something like that, Ethan starts to become convinced that something like dream travel might be happening to him without his knowledge, and that somebody might be trying to set him up. So he contacts Sophia, the girl that posted the video, and the two of them end up meeting in person, and they start trying to get to the bottom of these terrifying experiences that Ethan has been having. Now, that's only like the first third of the book. And after that point, the novel goes into its second of 3 parts. The parts are actually called Lights, Camera, and Action. And the whole narrative shifts somewhat. I won't reveal exactly what happens, but suffice it to say that the reality of the story up to now becomes, like, upended in really interesting ways. And as the story goes on, both Ethan, the main character, and you, as the person reading the book, start to become increasingly unsure of what's real and what isn't. So like I mentioned, this was a great read. It was very immersive. It was very ominous. And it had just this really steadily building mystery that really kept your eyeballs, like, glued to the page, right? It was kind of like mind-bending at times, but I didn't find it hard to follow or anything like that. Even though, like I said, reality becomes like blurred more and more, like as the story goes on. And I think that everything was very adequately explained at the end without over explaining it. Because I said sometimes you got to watch with too much exposition and stuff, but I think this did it just right. The whole vibe of this book, in fact, was so cool that I would actually really love for this to be made into a movie someday, because I could just see it spooling out like visually in my head. Now, I have barely any criticisms of this. If I had one criticism, and this is super slight, it would be that a couple of words were overused, like particularly in regards to the attributes of certain characters. Like, for example, Sophia was described several times as sharp or commanding or precise, like, you know, several times over the course of the story, like he would use the same words to describe her. But honestly, that wasn't really a big deal at all. And I didn't even really notice it until it started getting toward the end of the book. So I would definitely not hesitate to recommend this to anyone who's into kind of cerebral psychological horror. And if you're specifically a fan of stories having to do with like shady government agencies using people's paranormal powers as weapons, like in something like Scanners or Firestarter or Stranger Things or something like that, or anything involving kind of dream narratives bleeding into the real world, like, like Inception or Shutter Island or maybe Altered States, Nightmare on Elm Street, like I mentioned before. Like, if you like anything along those lines, or if you're into shit like MK Ultra kind of conspiracy theories and stuff, then you will probably love this. Oh, and when you come across that QR code, which is in the book about 3/4 of the way through or so, please scan it. Although the video it leads to is kind of somewhat described in the text, like after it shows up in the book, it's much better to see it visually. And I thought it was really cool that the author took the time to, whether he crafted it himself or whether he had somebody else do it, to do this kind of cool multimedia content that gives more detail and context to the story. Because I love like a multimedia moment, like in a book. So thanks so much again to Adam Cosco for sending me this book and sending me the print book. That was like really awesome. I legit loved this book. I thought it was great. And not just because she sent it to me for free. Like, if I didn't like it, I would say so. But it's like, I really did like this book. I thought it was really awesome. And I will definitely be reading more of his stuff. That will do it for this Tomes of Terror. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys again on the next one. Bye.